For over 5 centuries, one painting has baffled historians, theologians, and philosophers alike. A triptych filled with naked figures, fantastical creatures, bizarre machines, and surreal landscapes, all woven into a single vision of paradise, sin, and damnation. This is the Garden of Earthly Delights, painted by Hieronymus Bosch around the year 1500. It is not just a painting, it is a puzzle, a riddle carved in oil and wood, a coded message from an age when religion, science, and magic collided. No one knows for certain what Bosch intended. Is it a warning, a prophecy, a celebration, or perhaps a secret map of the human soul itself? Hieronymus Bosch was born around 1450 in the town of Bosch in the Netherlands, a place that would give him his name and shape his vision. We know surprisingly little about his life. No diaries, no letters, no manifestos. Only his paintings, windows into a mind unlike any other of the Renaissance. While Leonardo painted anatomy and Raphael captured divine beauty, Bosch painted dreams and nightmares. His world was filled with sin and salvation, demons and angels, heaven and hell, but also with biting satire, hidden jokes, and a deep distrust of human nature. He lived during an age of upheaval, the late Middle Ages, when plague, superstition, and religious fear ruled Europe, and his art reflected that darkness. Bosch painted the Garden of Earthly Delights between 1490 and 1510, likely as a commission for an unknown wealthy patron. It is a triptych, 3 wooden panels that unfold like a book. The left panel shows the Garden of Eden, a serene world of creation and innocence. The central panel is a chaotic, colorful explosion of humanity. Naked figures indulging in every imaginable pleasure. The right panel descends into hell, a nightmarish landscape of punishment, torture, and eternal despair. But here's the mystery. The meaning of it all remains elusive. Scholars cannot agree on whether the painting is a moral warning, an allegory of sin, a secret heretical teaching, or something entirely different. To understand Bosch, we must understand his time. Europe in 1500 was obsessed with sin and salvation. The Church preached that the world was a battlefield between God and the devil, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. At the same time, humanism was on the rise. Scholars were rediscovering ancient texts, and new ideas about free will, science, and the cosmos were emerging. Bosch stood at the crossroads of these worlds, part medieval mystic, part modern visionary. His art reflects this tension, a mixture of faith and doubt, fear and curiosity, damnation and desire. When the Garden of Earthly Delights first appeared, it shocked audiences. Some saw it as a warning against sin, a vivid sermon in paint. Others suspected heresy, a dangerous celebration of earthly pleasure. It is said that even church authorities were unsure what to make of it. Was Bosch condemning humanity or mocking religion itself? Was he revealing divine truths or hiding forbidden knowledge? The painting raised more questions than it answered, and 5 centuries later, it still does. To truly understand Bosch's message, we must start where the story begins, On the left panel, the Garden of Eden. This is not the biblical Eden most of us imagine. Bosch's paradise is dreamlike, strange, and filled with unsettling details. At the center, we see God, depicted as Christ, introducing Eve to Adam. It is a moment of creation and harmony. Animals roam freely, waters flow calmly, and the world seems untouched by sin. But even here, Bosch plants the seeds of unease. Look closely. A unicorn drinks beside a bear. A dragon-like creature slithers past a group of deer. Birds the size of humans perch on trees. This is not a literal Eden. It is a symbolic one, a vision of innocence teetering on the edge of corruption. And then the center, the heart of Bosch's masterpiece, the Garden of Earthly Delights, explodes with color and chaos. Hundreds of naked figures fill the landscape, indulging in music, feasting, love, lust, and countless pleasures. Some see this panel as a warning, a depiction of humanity consumed by desire and blinded by temptation. Others argue it's a utopia, a vision of humanity before sin was condemned. Every detail here carries meaning. Enormous strawberries, symbols of fleeting pleasure, giant birds devouring humans, lust consuming the soul, naked men riding animals, nature dominating reason. Everywhere, humanity plays, unaware that this paradise is fragile and temporary. Bosch isn't just showing sin, he's showing its seduction. And finally, the right panel. The fall, the price, the inevitable end. Here, Bosch takes us deep into hell, but this is not Dante's inferno of flames and demons. It is stranger, more surreal, and far more disturbing. Musical instruments become instruments of torture. Gluttons are force-fed endlessly. Gamblers are crushed by giant dice. A half-human, half-egg monster devours souls and excretes them into the abyss. This is a world where every sin finds its punishment, and every pleasure carries a consequence. But it's also deeply ironic. The same things that brought joy in the central panel now bring suffering here. Bosch is telling us something essential about human nature, that the seeds of our damnation lie within our desires themselves. One of the oldest and most widely accepted interpretations of the Garden of Earthly Delights is that it is a warning, a moral sermon in paint. In this view, the left panel represents humanity before the fall, pure, innocent, and in harmony with God. The central panel shows humanity abandoning virtue for pleasure, indulging in lust, gluttony, and greed. And the right panel shows the inevitable result, eternal punishment. The symbolism supports this reading. Strawberries and cherries, sweet but short-lived, symbolize fleeting temptation. Transparent spheres, the fragility of human happiness. And the bizarre half-human, half-animal creatures, the dehumanizing power of sin. In this version, Bosch is less a painter and more a preacher, warning us that every pleasure comes with a price. But other scholars believe Bosch was not warning us. He was revealing a secret. In the late 15th century, heretical groups like the Brethren of the Free Spirit and the Adamites believed that true salvation could only be achieved by rejecting church dogma and embracing earthly pleasures as part of divine creation. Some historians argue that Bosch may have been influenced by these radical ideas, or even secretly shared them. Evidence? The central panel is not chaotic at all. It is structured, harmonious, and strangely joyful. There is no shame, no guilt, no fear. Humans coexist with nature, animals, and even hybrids in a kind of ecstatic paradise. This is not a warning. It's a manifesto. If this theory is correct, the garden might not be a condemnation of sin, but a celebration of a forgotten spiritual truth, that heaven is not beyond the world, but within it. A third and more radical theory suggests that Bosch's triptych is neither a sermon nor a manifesto, but a cosmic diagram, an alchemical map of the human soul. In alchemical tradition, the transformation of base matter into gold symbolized the purification of the soul. Many symbols in the garden, spheres, hybrid creatures, fountains, and circular structures, resemble alchemical diagrams and mystical mandalas. Some even see the painting as a visual guide to spiritual evolution. Eden equals the soul's divine origin. Earthly garden equals the soul's temptation, experience, and transformation. Hell equals the consequences of imbalance and ignorance. From this perspective, Bosch was not simply painting religion or sin. He was visualizing the entire journey of the human spirit, from creation to transcendence. When Bosch died around 1516, the Garden of Earthly Delights remained in private hands, hidden away from public view. In an era of rising religious orthodoxy and the Spanish Inquisition, such a painting, filled with nudity, strange creatures, and possibly heretical ideas, could have been destroyed. But fate had other plans. The painting found its way into the collection of the powerful Nassau family, and later into the hands of King Philip II of Spain, who was both deeply religious and strangely fascinated by Bosch's work. Philip believed the painting was not heretical, but prophetic, a vision of the spiritual dangers facing humanity. And so, instead of being burned, it was preserved in the royal monastery of El Escorial, where monks meditated on its meaning. By the 17th and 18th centuries, Bosch's painting was more than a curiosity. It became an enigma. Scholars tried to decode it using theology, alchemy, and classical philosophy. But the more they studied it, the more questions it raised. During the Enlightenment, many critics dismissed it as the product of a medieval mind, strange, chaotic, irrational. But others, like the Romantic poets and later the Surrealists, saw in Bosch a visionary centuries ahead of his time. Salvador Dalí called him the first modern artist, and André Breton considered the garden a proto-surrealist dreamscape. It was no longer just a religious painting. It was a mirror, reflecting every era's fears, obsessions, and desires. In the 20th century, Bosch's garden transcended art. Psychologists saw it as an early depiction of the unconscious, a visual record of dreams, desires, and fears. Carl Jung believed it symbolized the shadow self, the dark, unacknowledged part of human nature. Writers and filmmakers drew inspiration from it, from Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception to modern dystopian films. Even scientists studying human cognition have referenced Bosch as a precursor to modern ideas about chaos, complexity, and emergent systems. The painting is more than a work of art. It is a map, not of the world, but of the human mind itself. Today, over 500 years after its creation, the Garden of Earthly Delights feels more relevant than ever. In an age of consumerism, digital temptation, and ecological crisis, Bosch's vision reads like a prophecy. We are still in the central panel, chasing pleasure, blinded by desire, ignoring the consequences. And just like the figures in Bosch's painting, we too stand on the edge, between paradise and damnation. The painting is not just a reflection of the past. It is a warning for the future, a mirror held up to our civilization, asking us to look deeper. Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Garden of Earthly Delights is that it refuses to be solved. It is a book without a final chapter, a dream that keeps unfolding. Every generation sees something different in it: sin or salvation, science or sorcery, despair or hope. And maybe that's the point. Bosch didn't paint answers. He painted questions. Questions about who we are, why we exist, and what lies beyond the horizon of our desires. 500 years later, we still search for those answers. And maybe, just maybe, the journey is the answer itself.